Hello, and thank you for joining me in this short presentation, the U-index, an alternative metric to measure academic impact. In this short talk, I want to discuss a common problem that we have as academics, which is how do we evaluate academic performance, whether our own, or the impact of our own research, or also a possible new hire, or maybe how to evaluate a colleague for a promotion, and so on. Now, for this, there are some common metrics that we are used to, we all use, and are for display on Google Scholar for each of us or other website. And these usually are the I10 and the H-index. So the I10 is the number of papers we have that have at least received 10 citation, while the H-index is the N papers that have at least N citations. But there are some problems with these metrics, and essentially they tend to define a baseline, but then do not fully consider highly relevant works. Also, papers are given the same weight regardless of author numbers, and it's possible to game the system and, in a way, try to self-cite ourselves, so to push this kind of thresholds higher, whether it's the I10 number or an H-index as well. So how do we also differentiate within the same H-index group? That's another common problem that we have, is as the index becomes higher, then there are more and more people that are in a certain group. And we may also want to have an additional metric that can shed more insights on how different researchers within the same group also fare. So for this, I would like to propose an alternative matrix, which I named U-index, standing for unique index, which is defined as the number of an independent citation plus the number of self-citation divided 2. So a self-citation have a lower weight. And this number then divided the square root of the number of authors. And I did some trial with different values here, and I believe that the square root of the number of authors is a good way to have a kind of smoother tapering for smaller groups. But at the same time, it also retains some value in contributing to larger cooperative projects, which of course are still very meaningful as well. So let's see some simple examples and try to understand how the U-index behaves in different situations. We have here a table of possible hypothetical papers, where we see that, for example, a paper that can have 100 citations, how it is evaluated by the U-index according to the number of I and S citation, as well as the number of authors. And we see that as the number of authors comes up, becomes bigger, and also the number of self-citations becomes bigger, then of course the impact that the U-index attributes to this paper becomes lower in let's say, an effective way. As another case that we can quickly check is a variation of this. It could be the U10 index, that we can get by adding together the U indices for the top 10 papers in number of citation that a specific researcher has. So we can have an example here for three hypothetical researchers. One could be professor with 800 citation and an H-index of 13 and I10 of 14 that has a small number of self-citation and also used to work in small groups. And then we can have another researcher B, who is an assistant professor, lower number of citation, but the same H-index and I10 of the full professor, but we see that S and N in this case are higher. So this researcher has a higher number of self-citation and worked in bigger groups. And then last, as researcher C, maybe an associate professor that has 400 citation with an H-index and I10 index of 10. And this researcher has still a low number of self-citation and worked either independently or in small groups. And we see that the U10 index is actually able to differentiate well among these three cases and give a value that is actually reflective of their seniority as well. So in conclusion, while definitely more testing on specific groups of researchers is needed to verify whether the index can really be a reliable indicator of research quality in many different contexts, I believe that it is a simple matrix that can still avoid the typical criticism that has been moved towards the other more established common measure that we used so far. And it's something that I think we can adapt and can help us in assessing, as I said, our own impact or the one of possible new hires or colleagues and so on. So thank you for your attention, and of course I will be happy to answer any question you may have online